The field of marketing is very huge and diverse in nature. In routine practices, the offered business environment to a manager can be very diverse for different projects. Hence, a common, constant, and classical way of thinking might not be enough to justify each project. This video is directed towards exploring and unlocking multiple ways of thinking, multiple tracks of thinking a manager will need to justify each project and execute in different given business environment. This all starts with the vision of a company. The vision statement of a company is the declaration of the objective of the company that is intended to guide the internal decision making. On the basis vision statement, on the basis the desired future state of the company, the goal of the operation is identified, which is named as the mission of a company. On the basis mission of a company, the business goal is defined, which has become prominent for the business. On a broad view, there are three different goals can be offered on the basis manager has to track his thoughts and actions. The first situation can be offered is to attain leadership in the existing domain of the business. The second offered goal can be around expanding the existing scope and scale of the domain. And third situation can be around creation of new scope and scale. On the basis these three broad business need, four different thinking tracks are generated to be followed by manager based on different checkposts. These checkposts would make sure that at different stages of decision making, managers maintain the right track. We study corporate strategic objective as first checkpost here that how priorities and actions differs for different business asks. As for the thinking track framework, managers who follow track 1, where the ask is to attain leadership around existing domain, market penetration should be the ideal corporate strategy. Whereas, when the ask is to expand the scope and scale of existing domain, market development and product development are the approaches based on firm's internal strength and external opportunities. And the framework suggests to follow diversification as corporate strategic objective when the ask is to create new domain for the business. We study strategic orientation as second checkpost that suggests how priorities and actions differs for different business projects. As for the framework, managers who follow track 1 with the strategic objective of market penetration and managers on track 4 with diversification as a strategic objective, development of internal and external resources should be the ideal orientation for a strategy. Whereas managers on track 2 practicing market development as a strategic objective consider to focus more towards development of internal resources. Managers following track 3 with product development as a strategic objective work on development of external resources as a strategic orientation. Strategic nature is the third checkpost which differentiate the efforts widely and direct managers to specific track. The framework says managers on track 1 enhancing market penetration practice intensive strategy as primary strategy. Also, they acquire focus strategy and cost leadership strategy as an additional tool. Nature of strategy is more towards integration and defensive for managers on track 2 aiming for market development. For track 3, where the strategic objective is new product development, nature of strategy goes towards differentiation and being defensive. Finally, managers on track 4, known to diversify, place diversification as nature of strategy. The fourth checkpost as per the thinking track framework is called strategic focus. As per the framework, integration and interaction are the elements to focus for managers on track 1 practicing intensive strategies. Whereas for managers on track 2 practicing integration, positioning themselves, studying the consumer context, and developing resources and capabilities are the areas to focus. Product positioning and resource capabilities are the elements to focus for managers on track 3, working to differentiate, and finally, managers on track 4, practicing diversification, consider study consumer context and development of resources and capabilities accordingly as the areas to focus. The fifth checkpost, as per the framework, is discriminator. It differentiates the base of centricity to prioritize placement and direct managers to follow the specific track. As per the framework, managers on track 1 should base their efforts keeping brand and customer at center. It helps to penetrate deep. Whereas managers on track 2 center them mainly around customers to know inside and develop new market. Product is the central element for managers on track 3, differentiating and developing new products. It goes a bit complex for managers on track 4, diversifying the market, diversifying the business. In this case, product, customer, and very important concept at business is based upon are the areas to center around. Marketing orientation goes very important for business and it is identified as checkpost number 6 in the framework. As per this study, managers on track 1 penetrating the market in a highly competitive environment are oriented towards multiple tactical moves which gains short-term benefit for business as the scope of differentiation is limited in such environment. Whereas on track 2, track 3 and track 4 where the scope of differentiation is high, managers are more towards strategic orientation and look for long-term goals. Specific focus on marketing efforts and its precise placement on relevant aspect goes critical to drive a successful program. Hence, marketing focus is considered as seventh checkpost in this study. The framework suggests that managers following track 1 place their marketing focus on marketing mix as it plays major role to run tactical campaigns and enhancing penetration in existing domain. For managers on track 2, brand identity and brand image are the aspects identified critical to focus as it plays important to integrate, build credibility for long term and develop new market. Managers on track 3, brand image is considered important element to place the focus. Finally, managers on track 4 place their focus and efforts on corporate brand identity as it is the only historical aspect they carry to connect and begin to diversify. Branding is the exciting aspect of marketing and hold the position of checkpost number 8 in the framework. Branding process always based on multiple dimensions. For different business environment, it might look similar but never the same. Hence, it goes important to know about the role of different dimensions for different tracks. Organizational strategy, brand identity charter, brand elements, and marketing program are the dimensions that work well for managers on track 1. Whereas managers on track 2 consider brand image, brand element, marketing program as an important dimensions to be in practice. Marketing program, brand or product element as a residual decision are the dimensions found very suitable for track 3 environment where differentiation is the key. And finally, managers following track 4 focus on organizational strategy, corporate brand identity, charter, corporate brand image, corporate brand history, brand or product elements, marketing program as branding dimensions to diversify. During the campaign, how you define your brand and what it means to target market matters a lot. Hence, it is the next step, it is the next checkpost in the journey. As per the framework, managers on track 1 practicing market penetration define the brand as their image, whereas managers on track 2 developing new market present their efforts as the identity system of the company. For track 3, where new product development is the key objective, brand should be displayed as a logo, as a legal entity, and as an instrument. Managers on track 4, diversifying the business, define the branding efforts as an evolving entity and value system of the company. The 10th checkpost goes very important in the overall marketing process as it is about differentiating your efforts by defining a differentiated role you want your brand to play in the business. For a business following track 1 and track 4, brands must play a customer centered role, facilitating decision making and providing emotional value. Moreover, it should also act as a symbolic partner co-configuring the relational domain for firm customer interaction. For a business on track 2, brand should play a firm-centered role associated with unilateral creation and sustenance of competitive advantage through differentiation and efficiency. And finally, for business on track 3, where managers base their efforts around product, branding play product-centered role that mainly support communication. Checkposts 11 to 14 are extremely unique and important for all business, and the best part is at these checkposts all four tracks which represent different business environment in different settings join together to follow common steps as the core aspect at these steps are common for all tracks. Checkpost 11 is segmentation and checkpost 12 is known as targeting. Managers at all four tracks must scan four very critical elements of business environment, that is economy, personality, identity and relation. On the basis these four key aspects in different business environment, managers need to draw the baseline. Positioning is very commonly used for all marketing programs, and here in thinking framework it is at checkpost number 13. Very common ground thumb rule for positioning starts with scanning the context consumer pass through and experience the product or services at multiple points of contact. And the next step is to position the product or services with highly aligned and relevant concept in very specific consumer context. It is important that the said concept must be strong enough to gain attention, should be very specific to the consumer context, and must be favorable to targeted product or services. Checkpost 14 is messaging, which is the next step to positioning. At this checkpost, again all four tracks comes together and managers from each track must make sure that messaging statements and actions must be functional, must be experience based, and very important, it must display the symbols indicating the core essence of the business. The final checkpost is known as performance matrix, which is very critical and it differentiates the way again for all four tracks. For managers on track 1, balance scorecard is the tool to measure the performance. Managers on track 2 look at financial perspective and internal perspective to assess the performance. Product perspective and financial perspective are the elements reflect the performance of managers following track 3, and finally managers on track 4 look at customer based customer perspective as the area to measure performance.